We know that because of the anabolic threshold that comes from the leucine, you need at least 25 to 30 grams in a sitting. But this depends on your size, your weight, and your age. Hey everybody, I'm Nathan, the fat loss coach from Life Shift Fitness. I'm here with some frequently asked questions. Today we're going to get into how much protein should I eat when I'm lifting weights, how much protein can I eat in one sitting, and how much of that protein goes to building muscle. So in my years of experience as a personal trainer, I have found a bunch of frequently asked questions, and this is one of them I'm going to answer today. So before we get started, I just want to let you know I'm super happy that you're supporting the channel. If you could hit the like button and subscribe. I know I probably have like 10 subscribers right now, so help me out. I'm a brand new creator. Really appreciate your subscription and your like. I got new videos coming out every single week. I have my social posted in the description. So if you follow me, I have daily tips and recipes and stuff to fast forward your progress there. All right, so let's jump right into it. How much protein should I consume while lifting weights? And how much protein should I consume in one sitting? So research says you should consume 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So let's just say 1 gram per pound of body weight. For example, I'm 15% body fat and I weigh 220 pounds. So 15% of 220 is 33 pounds. You subtract 33, the amount I have in fat mass, from my total weight, which is 220, and that equals 187 grams. So research says I should aim for about 187 grams of protein per day. So there are some exceptions, like professional athletes, people who train 6 or more hours a day. They may require more protein than the average person. Matter of fact, they probably do. So be on the safe side. If you're a professional athlete or someone who has a very physical manual labor job and you lift weights at least an hour a day every day, or if you're more experienced and you decide to lift twice a day, those are all cases where you may benefit from an increased intake of protein. Another exception from the 1 gram per pound of body weight rule is obese people. If you're 350 pounds, you don't need 350 grams of protein. At that point, it would be more realistic and important for you to subtract your body fat percentage from your total weight to find out how much how much lean body mass you have, and so how much you aim for. For example, I've had a client before that was 320 pounds. She was like 59% body fat. So we had her aiming for about 150 grams a day. So I'd rather overshoot than undershoot. So protein is utilized for all the tissues in the body. So it's not just your muscles. You got to remember that your skin, for every cell in your body is made up of structures of protein. Even the organelles in your cells are protein. The transporters that do any work inside your body, or even the enzymes in your stomach that are responsible for helping you break down food. Those are all protein. So as you can see, protein has a lot of roles in the body besides just repairing muscle tissue. So let's compare being over 30 grams of protein on average per day to being under 30 grams on average per day. Let's say that you take in 30 extra grams of protein every day on average for a year. It gets metabolized, oxidized, transferred to other tissues of your body, no harm. Compared to, let's say you weren't getting enough sufficient amount of protein and you were actually 30 grams under your goal, what your body could realistically utilize on average on a daily basis. So it may not 30 grams may not sound like a lot, but 30 grams compounded over 365 days in the year, that could be, about 1,000 grams of protein short that you could have utilized in a year period to build more muscle. 1,000 grams is a kilogram, which is about 2.2 pounds. So in a year, you left about 2.2 pounds of lean muscle on the table by undershooting your protein by 30 grams a day. So that's why I say just shoot for a gram per pound of body weight if you're sufficiently lean, because even if you're overshooting by just a little bit, it's not going to hurt. But the alternative, which is undershooting, you could leave lean gains on the table. We don't want to do that. So further explanation. The signal to grow comes from your training stimulus, and the protein is the raw material you need to grow. So this can be a common misconception. When you go to the gym, you're not growing muscle. When you go to the gym, you're breaking down the muscle through the correct amount of repetitions and sets, which sends a signal to the body, inflammation and other biological processes that tells your body to repair that muscle. So it increases your rate of muscle protein synthesis through that signal. And so if you have protein available over the next 48 to 72 hours, then your body uses that protein in combination with that signal that you caused during your training to build the muscle. Another important fact about protein is if you're in a cut, meaning you're in a calorie deficit and you're expending more calories on a daily basis than you're taking in, then your protein needs may be higher, because the more aggressive the calorie deficit that you're in, that means your body is going to be more motivated to look for your muscle tissue for energy and amino acids it needs for other processes in the body. So if you're not taking in enough food to maintain body weight and you're on a diet, your body's going to say, well, where can we get amino acids for other functions in the body, since you're not taking in enough protein in your diet and you are in a cut? Well, it's going to start breaking down your protein that you that's the last thing you want is for your body to start breaking down the protein contained in your muscle fibers for other purposes. So it will really benefit you to increase your protein intake, especially if you're in a calorie deficit. So it turns out that in a calorie surplus, as your carbs increase, your body is a lot less likely to try to utilize its dietary protein contained in the muscles for other processes and uses. So quick note, there's been some pretty good studies on the accuracy of electrical impedance scales, which you may see is you have handheld ones where you put your thumbs on the little sensors and it sends a little signal through your body. I have a really expensive body composition scale I use for my clients. It's like top of the line, and it's expensive and it's supposed to be as accurate as it can be. But at the end of the day, it's still can be thrown off by electrolyte levels, hydration levels. So it's not something you want to live or die by. But how I use electrical impedance scales to keep my clients on track is like, even though the scale itself is not that accurate, as someone loses body fat over time, the scale is right to itself, meaning that 17% on that scale is 17%. Even if that 17% is 21% on a DEXA scan, which something could be done in a lab, that's like the gold standard of measuring someone's body fat percentage. So where a DEXA scan might say that you're 21%, and electrical impedance scale says you're 17, that 17% does have a margin of error, but from month to month, if your scale says 17%, then 15% the next month, then 13%, then 11, it's right to itself. So your scale is showing that you're losing body fat, even though what it's actually measuring might not be exactly where you're at. So you can still use it to track progress. So how much protein can you absorb from one meal? 100%, all of it. You can absorb all the protein. even if you consume 200 grams in one meal, you absorb all of it. Well, I mean, I don't know why you would eat 200 grams of protein at one time, but let's just say you did. You absorb all of it. Now, there has been studies, really interesting studies on intermittent fasting because, there's been such a craze over the past 5-6 years. It's really blown up in the mainstream. There are different protocols for intermittent fasting. Some people do a 16-8 protocol where they eat for 8 hours a day and fast for 16. But there are more extreme versions of intermittent fasting. I mean, you could eat for 4 hours a day and fast the other 20. Or at the most extreme, you could have a 2-hour eating window and fast for the other 22 hours of the day. And they found that for the purposes of dieting, that let's say you wanted to eat for 4 hours a day, you had a 4-hour window and fast the other 20, as long as you got all your protein in for the day in that 4 hours, it was enough to satisfy your biological processes. So you didn't lose any muscle, especially when combined with a good training program. Resistance exercise program would usually consist of lifting weights. So we know that intermittent fasting studies, even if you had a 4-hour eating window, you wouldn't lose any muscle as long as you consumed all of your protein in that one window. But that's not optimal. We'll get into why that's not optimal very shortly. But how does the body absorb all this protein? So the myth is you can only absorb 30 grams in a sitting. Well, here's how it works. You take the protein in, it goes in your stomach, it gets dropped in a vat of hydrochloric acid, starts breaking down the protein, and then it gets empty. Your stomach empties into your small intestines, which are about 20 feet long, right? And the 20 feet of small intestines in your body is a tube, and it's got a lot of surface area. It's 20 feet of surface area. So as the protein digests, it doesn't, it gets absorbed by your small intestines. There's no way it just, it's not like it just passes through. It gets absorbed in your small intestines. But muscle is only one destination, remember. So, it can go to your skin cells, it be turned into enzymes. Like every part of your body is made out of, protein and has functions it uses protein for. So it's not just your muscle tissue. So where does the myth come from? The myth comes from the amount of leucine, which is one of the amino acids it takes to signal an anabolic response. So leucine is an amino acid. It's one of 20 amino acids that exist. You have two types of amino acids. You have essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are amino acids that your body can't synthesize on its own and has to get from external sources. There's 9 essential amino acids. Of those 9 essential amino acids, there's a special subcategory called branched chain amino acids. There are 3 branched chain amino acids: leucine, isoleucine, and valine. The branched chain amino acids are really heavily marketed because they make a lot of money on them. But if you're taking in 1 gram of protein per pound of body mass, the branched chain amino acids don't serve you any extra purpose. But if you aren't, and there's some specific cases where branched chain amino acids are useful. Like, for example, if you aren't able to take in 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or for some reason you wanted to do some faster cardio or something like that, it could be argued that it could be helpful. Let's zoom back out to the total protein. The reason you're taking in the protein is to consume enough leucine. Leucine is the key. So your body needs about 2.5 grams to 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine to turn on the anabolic pathway. So whey protein, which is derived from milk, it's a dairy-based protein. Especially whey isolate is filtered, the most filtered version of protein that comes from dairy. It's about 10% leucine by volume. So that means that about 25 to 30 grams of whey will supply 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine because it's 10% of that volume of whey. But the protein quality is dependent on the source. So what I mean by protein quality, the quality is the proportion of amino acids are different in different sources of protein. Like whey is the most optimal, but other sources of protein also have leucine, but it just may not be in quite an ideal proportion to the other amino acids present in the protein source. So where does the myth come from? Continued. So in descending order, it goes whey, egg, beef, turkey, chicken, pork, and plant protein, right? So notice it went dairy-based protein was the highest quality, then meat, then plant was the lowest quality. So you need significantly more plant protein to get the same amount of leucine and less of the leucine you get from another source, like red meat or dairy-based, like whey protein. So it actually takes 3 times more plant-based protein to achieve the same leucine as whey. So it would take at least about 3 times as much like pea or rice protein to get the amount of leucine that you would get from a third of that amount of whey. So once you reach that leucine threshold, the anabolic response is maxed out. So back to the 200 gram of protein example. If you were to take in 200 grams of protein, once you hit that leucine threshold, meaning 30 grams of that protein, 30 of that 200 grams supplied enough leucine to turn on the anabolic pathway. The rest of it doesn't give you a bigger anabolic response. Like taking in 30 grams of protein and taking in 60 grams of protein may not be any more beneficial, especially not 200 grams. Taking in 200 grams in one sitting, it wouldn't stimulate the anabolic response multiple times more than if you were to take in 30 grams in most cases. And I say most cases because it does depend on your size, your age, your weight. Like all these are factors, and we'll get into that in more detail here in just a second. Just want to make sure I didn't leave you hanging on that point. Out with the myth, in with the facts. So the more times a day you can stimulate muscle protein synthesis, the better. So for optimal results, you would want to take in 25 to 30 grams of protein spread out throughout the day as many times as you can. So the more times you take in that 30 grams of protein, the more times you ramp up the rate of muscle protein synthesis. The more times you ramp up the rate of muscle protein synthesis, the more times in that period more opportunities in that period you have to build muscle. So if you take in insufficient amounts of protein, your rates of muscle protein breakdown are going to be higher than your rates of muscle protein synthesis. Now, what does that mean? Your body's always breaking down old structures, rebuilding new ones, repairing. So on a day-to-day basis, your body is engaging in muscle protein breakdown as the structures get old or wear out, and then they build them back through muscle protein synthesis. And this is always going on. So when you go through a weightlifting workout, you're actually causing a bunch of muscle protein breakdown. So with that signal that comes with training and the supply of protein, that you increase your rates of muscle protein synthesis, which means you build the muscles back bigger and stronger than they were before. But you got to have the protein to do so. So The more times a day you can give your body a fresh supply of the protein of at least 30 grams, the better. So how many times a day should you consume protein? First, how much will go to building muscle? Well, we know that because of the anabolic threshold that comes from the leucine, you need at least 25 to 30 grams in a sitting. But this depends on your size, your weight, and your age. The bigger you are, the more muscle you hold, it's a good chance that you will be able to use more of the protein from your diet for muscle building purposes. So aim for that 1 gram of protein per pound of body mass if you're sufficiently lean. And a little extra won't hurt. In fact, it'd probably help you. So for example, my goal is 220 grams of protein per day. So I consume about 5 meals a day on average. So I make sure that each one of those meals contains at least 40 grams of protein. Now, here's a pro tip. Whenever I do a protein shake, which 2 of my protein servings of the day are usually protein shakes. So depending on if I'm bulking or cutting, if I'm cutting, then I have less solid meals. If I'm bulking, I have to eat solid meals more often throughout the day to get all my calories in. But let's say on average, 2 of my protein servings, or what I call meals throughout the day, will just be protein shakes to help me reach my protein goal. So in those shakes, I always do 1 scoop of whey protein and 1 scoop of casein, because whey is fast digesting and casein is slow digesting. So with 25 grams of each, because a scoop of protein usually has about 25 grams of protein. So with 25 grams of whey fast digesting and 25 grams of casein slow digesting, it ends up keeping my amino acid levels elevated for longer, because some of the protein digests now and some of it digests later. That's a pro tip. So, in conclusion, how much protein should you consume per day? Your protein target is about 1 gram per pound of body weight. How much protein can you consume in one sitting? As much as you want. LOL. Laugh out loud. LOL. Not real, but really. Once you reach that leucine threshold, 25 to 30 grams of protein supplying 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, you won't get multiple more times the anabolic response. You would have the most optimal results consuming at least 25 to 30 grams of protein more frequently throughout the day to optimize your results. All right, that looks like all the slides I have for today. So again, thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. I hope you subscribed. I hope you hit the like button. I really hope you do. Thank you so much. I'm Nathan, the fat loss coach from Life Shift Fitness. I'm a licensed professor and a certified personal trainer, and I'll see you in the next one.